Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance in Nigeria and around the world. I am Suleiman Suleiman. Today, our focus is on the call by former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar III, and the President of Christian Association of Nigeria, Bishop Samson Ayokunle. All three Nigerian leaders called for a national reconciliation conference as a way of addressing the current national challenges facing the country. The leaders made this call at a security dialogue retreat in Abuja recently. But this call for national reconciliation conference builds on similar conferences like the Oputa panel under former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the National Political Conference by the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan. There have also been calls, in fact, that one is much older, for a sovereign national conference championed by activists like Professor Wole Soyinka. And yet, some critics are saying that all of these conferences have achieved nothing, and the call for such conferences are no more than for people to come and talk, and that's all. So we, on Daily Politics today, we ask, what does a conference of national reconciliation mean? Will it bring about peace and stability in Nigeria? And how will it do that? Will a conference end insecurity or reduce corruption in Nigeria, for example? Joining me on the program today are Professor Usman Yusuf. He is a former executive secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme. He's also a professor of hematology, oncology, and bone marrow transplant. That's a mouthful. You're much welcome, sir.
Thank you, Suleiman.
Thank you. And in addition, he's a member of the Northern Elders Forum. And also with me is Mr. Malaki Uzendu, former chairman, Nigerian Union of Journalists, FCT chapter.
Thank you very much.
And also editor of the Authority newspapers. You're much welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. So, but as usual, we will take a minute to bring you a roundup of politics in the news. But let me warn, from the next year, we'll be dropping the roundup of politics from this program. We'll be bringing you political tidbits instead. I hope you're looking forward to it because we're preparing to serve you better in the next year.
The presidency has countered a public statement by one of the factions of the All Progressives Congress APC in Kano State that they have received the endorsement of President Muhammadu Buhari. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, in a statement at the weekend said it was blatantly untrue that Buhari is in support of any faction of the party in Kano State. An Abuja High Court had on November 30 sacked the leadership of the APC faction in the state loyal to Governor Abdullahi Ganduje. The court declared the executives of a faction loyal to former governor of the state Ibrahim Shekarau as duly elected leaders of the party in the state. The All Progressives Grand Alliance APGA have released a schedule of activities for the conduct of its primary polls ahead of the Ekiti and Osun states governorship election in 2022. In a provisional timetable of activities for Ekiti and Osun states governorship primary elections signed by APGA's National Organizing Secretary, Ifeanyi Mbairi, the party said the primary elections for Ekiti and Osun states would take place on January 27 and March 10, 2022 respectively. He also said the expression of interest form is pegged at 2 million naira, while nomination form is 10 million naira. According to the party, women and people living with disabilities would pay 50% of the sums. The National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) has been urged to unite the warring factions in the party and prepare it for victory in the 2023 general elections. The chairman PDP Unity Forum in Zaria, Kaduna State, Barrister Yusuf Sambo, made the appeal while speaking with Daily Trust. He said the party is in disarray with many court cases and factions threatening its chances of winning future elections. Sambo challenged all stakeholders to start evolving political strategies towards mending fences among party loyalists to avoid defections.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daily Politics, and we're talking about the possibility of a national reconciliation conference in Nigeria and what it can achieve in terms of healing the wounds across the nation. So I start with you on my left, as usual, Mr. Malaki. This idea of having some talk between various sections of Nigeria, has been an old idea in the country. This, sovereign national conference, and so on. And sometimes it has even been tested. For example, the political conference in 2014 under former President Jonathan. But this one is still different. It's not talking about political conference. It's not talking about some kind of arrangement on how we're going to live together. It's talking about reconciliation. So, what conflict are we reconciling from?
Well, I think we might have to go a little bit historical.
Okay.
On June 14th, 1999, former President Olusegun Obasanjo inaugurated what is popularly known as the Oputa Panel, which was a version of a Truth and Reconciliation Committee or Commission that we had in South Africa. The South African version, very successful. For 2 years and 11 months, this Oputa Panel went around the country, came to Abuja, rounded off, made up of distinguished Nigerians, headed by the late former Supreme Court Justice Chukwudifo Oputa. Now, they submitted their report comprising of about 11 volumes to the president, and they made far-reaching recommendations. Unfortunately, I do not think that any Nigerian is aware if any of those recommendations were implemented. Governments have this idea of when they set up a distinguished panel, then they will tell you that they want to set up a white paper panel. I don't know what that one means. Which white paper? The panel submitted their report on a white paper, and they are setting up another panel to review a panel made up of distinguished personalities. And then you call that one white paper. All those things are things that either water down the report or outrightly demolish the content of the report. But you've seen that throughout our history, we've gone to the extent that at the end of the day, we'll be waiting for white paper and we see no paper at all. Nothing is implemented. So that had been the problem that we have. But as to the question that you asked, whether there are issues to reconcile, yes, especially between the Nigerian public and the government. Okay. Those people that are ruling us since 1999 have not been sincere to the Nigerian public. And so there are lots of issues to reconcile. And but as to whether it will be achieved through any form of panel, I disagree.
We will come to that.
Yes.
So, Prof, the Oputa panel that he mentioned came soon after, we're coming out of 30 years of military rule, give or take 4 years of democracy in between. So there was need, at least we could say there was that need to see, okay, the military rule that we have had can be compared to, it's much, much less, in a way, but at least it was not a democratic government, But this one, there hasn't been any, we're not coming out of any dictatorial government in which people's rights were abridged or in which, and so on. We are in a democracy. And we have been in this democracy for 23 years. So what are we reconciling from? What do we need to reconcile from?
Good. I recently wrote a paper and said, never in the history of our nation have things been this bad. And in that paper, I asked a question. If the state is failing, where are the statesmen?
Okay.
The statesmen are talking now.
Okay.
In any society where you don't have elders that can come up and talk, that society is a lost society. elders are talking. They're coming out of their shell. This nation, Nigeria, that we're enjoying now was built on the sweat, labor, and lives of our heroes past. Many of them are still alive. This president, President Muhammadu Buhari, wore the uniform of this country and fought to stitch this country back. Just like General T.Y. Danjuma, just like Obasanjo, just like IBM Haruna, and many of them. They're still alive. General Yakubu Gowon shepherded this country through a war. They cannot afford to fold their arms. When you have insecurity in each of the 6 geopolitical zones. So I'm glad they're coming up. And it's only elders that can come and put this country back together. So yes, there are issues all over the country. Is this country divided? People ask, oh, this country is divided. And I tell people, it is the elites that are dividing this country. The poor man in Katsina, where I come from, doesn't know and doesn't care about this your conferences. He's trying to eke a living, just like the poor man in Onisha, or Owerri, or Arondizogu. It is us, the elites, in Abuja and Lagos and all the cities that are, oh, let's restructure, let's constitution, let's this, let's this, let's this, let's rotate into our pockets. Nothing to do with the common man. If the common man comes and tells me, let's restructure, let's change this constitution, let's this, then I say, now we're talking. The reason I say it is all those our elected representatives that are supposed to represent us in the National Assembly or the Senate, or they don't go back home to hear from the people and come back. None of the ministers representing each of the states in President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet goes back home, spends a weekend or 2
to interact with the people.
No, to hear from the people and come back and report to the president. So there is a disconnect between the political class and those that voted them in. And that is why you see all this problem. And I said before, all these crises you see all over the place, from Boko Haram to IPOP to Niger Delta militants, it's one thing. Elders have lost control of their youth all over. Fulani elders have lost control of Fulani youth. That's why you have Fulani kids that are doing banditry, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. Kanuri elders have lost control of their youth. That's why you have Boko Haram. Igbo elders have lost control of their youth. That's why you have IPOP and ESN all over the place. So elders need to come in, and we'll come to that. That is why I and Sheikh Gumi went into the forest to do our part.
Yes.
So this conference or suggestion of talking has answered my question. If the state is failing, where are the statesmen?
Interesting.
Statesmen must all come in. And it's good we're all here coming in.
Thank you. So I can see some common grounds between the two positions. You know, you said that what to reconcile is between the Nigerians and the state, the public and the state, which is more or less a version of what the Prophet is saying, that there's disconnect between the leaders and the people that they are supposed to be leading. But some people would say that the people themselves, you know, they also have their own problems. You know, you and I were discussing earlier about what mechanics do, what tailors do, what ordinary citizens in the country do. Everyone, they're also all looking for a way to fleece the country or to fleece their neighbor or to, you know, cheat and so is that also the problem of the leaders as well?
Yeah, you see,
is it a problem of leadership or followership?
Prof has summarized everything that there needs to be said. If you have a vehicle and we elect you to be the driver, and then we all hop into the vehicle and we are driving, how do you come back and begin to apportion blames on us? And I will give you one little example. We have policemen who
Maybe
are
if you
charged,
puncture the tire?
yeah, who are charged with the with the primary responsibility of restoring law and order. Prof, I'm sure you passed through Beja roundabout, and you were blocked by commuters. What do the policemen do? There is a police post there, nothing. You go to Beja roundabout, nothing. Somebody tells me, if you want to know the psychology of a people, just watch the way they drive. If you come to Nigeria, in any part of the country, you will see total chaos, madness. But then, how do you turn around and begin to blame the public when there are institutions that are supposed to regulate all those affairs? Like Prof rightly pointed out, the elders, how do you blame the youth when you have a child and your child suddenly is becoming weird, and you leave him and you let him be, or you even encourage him through either practical or tacit, approach, and the guy goes off tangent. Then you come back and blame the child. Our leaders, and in particular our political leadership, let me be sincere with you.
Okay.
If you look at the National Assembly, I don't think there is any National Assembly member that can even convene a meeting of his family meeting, not to talk of pure constituency meeting. They may be there talking
But
whatever they, but they have.
When they go to their constituencies, their constituents are asking them. They're not talking about legislations that will benefit everybody. They are asking of small things that will go to.
No, what they do is that they come from Abuja with tons and tons of money to a people that are highly impoverished. Okay. And then all of a sudden, people that are hungry, you start bringing bags of rice, you start bringing a sewing machine, some will even bring a wheelbarrow and call it empowerment, some will bring shovel and call it empowerment. Those people are so much impoverished. There is nothing they can do. We know how town hall meetings are convened. We even know how family meetings are convened. We are all from different families. Can any senator attend his family meeting at home?
Interesting.
They don't go home. They only end up at the state capital at best.
Interesting. Prof, this raises another very important issue. The discussion so far is about, states failing, and where the statesmen, the disconnect between citizens and their leaders. But if you look at the crisis, the issues that you mentioned earlier, banditry here, insurgency here, IPOB there, and so on. The approach of the Nigerian state is not in the sense that you are presenting it as that these are manifestations of failure of some kind in the past or even at present. The approach is to use force and force and force and force. Is the government getting it wrong?
Yes, and I've said it and I've written. And I'll tell you the one I know. This is banditry.
Okay.
How do I know it? Because I'm from Katsina. It affects me. A third of my state is under siege by these bandits. We never saw IDPs until this government came in. So some of my folks have been affected. So I'm talking firsthand. I'm not talking abstract. Number one. Number two, I and Sheikh Gumi went into the forest in 8 states, deep into the forest. I met all of these war commanders. Not only them, we met traditional rulers, we met their outlaws, their leaders, we met community leaders, we met people that were involved.
What did you hear?
So the whole idea, so why did we even go? We did not go on the behest of any government or anybody. Okay, we sit down here, everybody is saying, blaming government. Government has failed, government has failed, government has failed. Well, guess what? Our children and grandchildren and God Almighty will ask you, Suleiman, what did you do? At this point in time when your people were going through this. You will not blame Buhari, so it's Buhari. No, Buhari is dealing with his own issues. Everybody must come in. And that was why we came in. Sheikh Gumi would be preaching in the mosque for years. We need to be going into the forest. Nobody will go if you don't go. So we went in to listen. Because Martin Luther King said, violence is the language of the unheard. If you don't hear people, even at home when your 2 kids are fighting, you call them and hear them both. We went to hear deep into the forest.
What are the things that you hear?
Right.
I'm sure Nigerians will be interested.
Right. So the thing is, these are the lessons we learned.
Okay.
All problems are local. And the solutions are local. No big plans from Abuja will solve this problem if you do not consult with local stakeholders. Because Gandhi said, whatever you do for me, without me, is against me. So big plans will come from Abuja without consulting. It will not work. All problems are local. None of these places we went to, did we hear them say, oh, we have a problems with the Nigerian military or the Nigerian state or the president? Oh, their problems are all local. And the solutions are local. We listen. So you must hear. Another thing we learned is that banditry is essentially a social problem.
Okay.
Social problem. That we, Nigeria, we are increasingly militarizing and putting our military in an impossible situation because it's not winnable. It's a social problem that we need to take care of locally. And we knew how it all started in Zamfara. There is a committee report by the former Inspector General of Police, MD Abubakar, 279 pages, that looked at the origin of banditry, because that's where it started and that's where it spread all across. You cannot, and there is Dr. Murtala Ahmed of University of Sokoto, spent 10 years with this bandit, wrote a book, I'm a Bandit, knows all of them. And he will concur and tell you that we are not going in the right way. How he puts it is that if you are in Abuja, you're going to Sokoto, it's like you're heading to Lokoja.
You're never going to get to Sokoto.
The government must listen to everybody. And I wrote in a paper, there is a place for the military, but there is no military solution to banditry in Nigeria. If anybody tells you there is a military solution, he either doesn't know what he's talking about, or he knows, but he's been disingenuous. And no one person, from the presidency to the military to the sultan, no one person can tell you, I have the solution. It is a collective. The government, the military, traditional ruler, clerics, everybody must come in to solve this problem.
Thank you. But Mr. Maleki, that leads us again to one of the objectives or one of the statements made by the organizers of that conference. The Reverend, I think, Sunday Onoha, of the Global Peace Initiative or Vision Africa. These were the two organizations that put that event together. One of the things that they said is that all our challenges, there are underlying sense of hate, sense of anger at your neighbor, underlying all these challenges. So banditry and IPOB and insurgents in the northeast and farmer herders clashes, people are consumed by a sense of grief, are grieving against their own neighbors, against other Nigerians. How do you think these things have come to this stage?
Well, I think these were as a result of neglect by people who have assumed responsibilities and they shirked on their responsibilities. And I want to give you another example. What happened, was it yesterday at Next?
Yes, when there was
fire. A sudden fire incident, and then to the amazement of everybody, people that you would rather call street urchins went into the place and started salvaging goods and put their lives in danger. And they were able to salvage so much quantity of goods that would have been engulfed in fire. Now, if those people were engulfed in hate, would they have done that? The answer is no. Now, what does that tell you? The ordinary people are not in any form of problem with one another. And that is why you'll find ordinary Igbo man in Sokoto, in Medugri, in Katsina. You'll find the ordinary Fulani man in Enugu, in Port Harcourt. You'll find the ordinary Ibera person in Calabar, in Funtua, in Kebbi State, doing their businesses. Now, without that trigger, which normally comes from the public sector, the ordinary person will never have any problem. And that is why I said, I agree with what Prof said. All those things are local. But then the instigating problem that brings us to crisis is the public sector.
You mean the political
if the
class?
people that are now, when you become a politician and you are elected, you become a public official.
Yes.
That's where the problem arises. Somebody that you know, that you normally will go to his house, suddenly finds himself in the House of Reps. You've lost him. Suddenly find himself in any government house. He's no longer your friend. In fact, he will run you out of the road with a lot of retinue of vehicles. You can imagine one man driving 30 vehicles. That he wants to visit his mother in the village. He has 45 vehicles, and then if you dare come near them, they will run you out of the road. Is he a friend? There is no ordinary man that does that. Now, until people in the public sector change their attitude to the ordinary Nigerian, so long will we continue to have these problems. So it is a kind of revolution of rising frustrations. You see young men, they graduate, they have nothing to do. Those in the public sector are not allowing industries to grow. Do you know that abroad, they don't allow industries to collapse? Now, go to CSC today and register a company. I give you 2 years. That company will be closed down by public institutions through all kinds of taxation. And they don't ask you, what do you earn? They don't go through your papers. So their own is that you must pay this rate from local government, pay this one from state, pay this one from NAFDAC, pay this one from this regulated agency, and then you are down and out. And they don't bloody care. It is not like that in a normal society.
Thank you.
So the Nigerian society have a problem. And those problems are caused by those of us who are privileged to be in the public sector.
Thank you. So, Prof, it's from what he's saying, it's clear where some of the issues lie. But what will a conference do? Since by its nature, we're in a conference right now. So how can that help?
Right. So it's good to talk.
Okay.
I remember I had General Obasanjo said when he's involved with this peace treaty in Ethiopia. When he went, they said, well, we don't want peace, we don't want peace. He said, how about talking? He said, yeah, we can talk.
Okay.
Once you talk between each other rather than shouting and talking at yourself. That in itself is healing, isn't it? At home, when your kids are yelling and you want things to calm down, and then let's talk, let's hear. Even if you can't solve a person's problem, if you let him talk, and hears. That's essentially what Sheikh Gumi does when we go into the forest. He sits down, he hears them, all their grievances. We take hours late into the night. And then so talking is very important, especially if it is our elders that are coming. We are a society, a culture that respect elders, that respect age, authority, traditional rulers and clerics all across the land. These are the group of elders that need to come in when there are problems. And I've said it before, insecurity anywhere in this country is as a result of two twin evils, corruption and bad governance. Corruption and bad governance, period. Take care of these two. We have lived, I'm old enough to have seen 13 administrations in this country. I went to Catholic school from primary 1 to primary 6, where my family was the only Muslim family. I went to NYSC in Cross River, never came back home. People never hated each other like they are now, even immediately after the Civil War. Even during the Civil War, people did not hate each other. You could hear old soldiers, General Gowon, I had General IBB in an interview saying, even during the war, you would look at, these are your mates. These are your countrymen. This was that time when you're fighting a war. But here we are now, we're saying this guy is, I hate this guy, I hate this guy, unless a constitutional assembly or restructuring, all that will not solve the problem. Let us face our reality. Our reality is back home. Yes, we beat on President Muhammadu Buhari because he's our president. We elected him to lead us.
Yes.
And we're not happy with what he's doing. But over 80% of the things we are blaming the president are the faults of the governors.
Okay. But,
the fault of our governors.
I think this is the point where we take a moment's break. When we come back, we'll probably be looking at issues around, okay, how is this particular conference, if it were to hold tomorrow, what parameters will it have? Would the members be elected, or would they be appointed by a president? And how would the kind of discussion, the talk, which you said, would that be different from what we have seen in previous cases? But before we go into all that, we'll take 1 minute and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Muhammadu Indimi Center for Distance Learning and an international conference center, initiated and funded by foremost elder statesman, international businessman and philanthropist Alhaji Muhammadu Indimi OFR through his foundation. The two elegant projects are sited at the University of Maiduguri. Commissioned by President Muhammadu Buhari, the landmark projects consist of a lecture hall for 800 students, a conference hall with 1,300 seats, a library, an electronic resource center, examination hall, 20 offices, digitized conference rooms, business centers, lounge and exhibition gallery. The Muhammadu Indimi Center for Distance Learning is built to international standard for the advancement of tertiary education for the people of Borno State, for other Nigerians, and for the future of humanity.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. And we're talking about national reconciliation, you know, a call made by former President Obasanjo, the Sultan of Sokoto, and the President of Kan, and many, many other Nigerian leaders on how we can reconcile the country into one piece all over again. If you're just joining us, you can follow us on all our social media handles, on our Instagram, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. So we go back into the discussion. Mr. Malakai, the discussion is going on. You know, okay, supposing we even, because part of the problem with the issue of national conferences in Nigeria was under what modality, under what, you know, parameters should we have, since you already have a National Assembly, which is a constitutionally, you know, and mandated body to represent Nigeria on all issues. There is no limitation as to what issues the National Assembly can take on. So how is this particular reconciliation effort being championed by the former president and Sultan and Khan president and Abu, and bearing in mind that this one is different because the previous ones have always been by people in politics. This one is by people that are largely outside of politics. Even if they were in politics before, they are not in politics now, and they are not speaking as politicians. They are speaking as the Prof said earlier, as elders.
You know, one thing that is very germane, just like Prof said, is that it is better to judge than to war.
Okay.
But we must not lose sight of the fact that Nigerians have been disappointed severally by several conferences that we have had. Because it is most unfortunate that the conveners of those conferences never even had faith in the conferences that they convened by themselves.
Interesting.
Otherwise, they would have implemented reasonably or even some aspects of the recommendations that were handed over to them. They are gathering dust somewhere. Now, ordinary people like me, I've not been in
But how can you, Jojo? The experience is that previous similar conferences, people will be fighting and will be disagreeing, and
no,
they never
it is normal that you can never have people railroaded into one road.
Okay.
So what you find at those conferences are normal. And that is precisely what Prof has said. You provide opportunity for people to ventilate their minds. Do you understand me? But then the problem now is that for those of us who have never operated in the public sector, and we know that the public sector have every paraphernalia that they ought to have to be able to make things to happen. How can an ordinary person like me, for instance, forget about the big names, Sultan of Sokoto, maybe Bishop Kuka, maybe Cardinal Naiko, Ayokunle, and so on and so forth. They are ordinary Nigerians. Convene a conference. When they finish, and then we go there to talk, and after talking, they compile their reports. Who will they hand it over to? Perhaps the president, or perhaps state governors. So who will implement it? When those people they are handing it over to don't even have confidence in the conferences that they convene themselves. And that is the missing link. Prof may not appreciate what I'm saying. You know, he has operated in the public sector. But perhaps as an academic, I know that he understands fully what I'm saying. Now the problem is, how do you convince an ordinary person like me to go there and waste my time talking, discussing what? Now what we want is that, in as much as it is good to talk, we want a situation where government will look at, one, the education sector.
Okay.
And begin to implement certain things that will make our children to go to school.
We'll be coming to that, because it leads directly to the question I was going to ask. The structural dimension of the conference, at least as it appears so far. We have, on the one hand, elders seeking to reconcile a country that is at war with itself in some sense. But if we look at this war, or these various conflicts, IPOB, bandits, insurgents, and farmer herders conflicts, you know, or communal conflicts you have in other parts of the country everywhere, largely involves young people, the youths. They're the ones who carry the weapons. They're the ones who make use of the weapons. They're the ones who run into the forests, you know. That of IPOB is particularly striking. When you look at the videos of them, you see very young people, you know, that, you know, and you can see that there is some sense about those who are talking about dispossession and disconnection between governance and that. But then again, those who bear the chief brunt of this conflict, those who suffer the most, are the women. You know, they're the ones who lose husbands, who lose their children. They're the ones who already, their situations were already precarious. So when they lose their husband to kidnappers or to bandits, things even get worse. And they're the ones who are also raped routinely and all that. And yet, these people were not represented in this initiative for the conference. What does that mean? What does it say?
I don't think it's if it's an oversight, I think it's going to be corrected. And I'm not speaking for
the organizers.
For the organizers. But let me tell you what we shouldn't discard.
Okay.
Just the optics. Just the optics of seeing the Sultan of Sokoto, the Khan president, even if they don't say anything, together, talking, even if they don't say anything, just the optics itself tells people, what are we fighting? Our leaders are talking. It's not like politicians or a governor will attend the wedding of APC in somewhere and they will do their own thing. But when religious leaders, when traditional leaders, when elders come together, it's a more reassuring gathering than political jamborees that are politicians. So the optics itself is good for the country.
Okay.
Number one. Number two is that elders are speaking, are coming up. when the state is failing. They are the only ones that can tell the top.
Okay.
Because they on the top were there in the struggle to build this country. It's not like you and I, we keep shouting, but the T.Y. Danjumas, the Obasanjos, the Gowons, they are elders that have paid their dues. And once they talk and...
But young people would say they are not given the opportunity. They want to be president.
Right,
they want to be governors. They want to be this and that.
So they have... just these elders coming, for me and for many people would say...
Calm down.
At least elders have it. Elders have the answer, even if they don't. So the optics, let us not disregard that optics. Number one. Number two, and it's not surprising. I told you we went into this forest. 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. Guns bigger than they can carry.
How do we arrive at that situation?
I come out, I feel like crying. How did we get here?
Yes.
And the story is the same if you go to Sambisa Forest. The story is the same if you go to the forest where those ESN are. The story is the same that Iboho was mobilizing because there is a vacuum. It's a vacuum of true leadership of elders, political elders. And I've said it before, we'll say it again, that politicians brought all this mess. And the military is being called upon to clean up this mess.
You said earlier it was the governors.
Yeah, okay, so the governors are, okay, it's not President Muhammadu Buhari that will build clinics, or wells, or hospitals,
or schools.
It is the governors. 40-something%, 48, 49% of revenue allocation every month when they go to FARC is distributed to state. 36 governors, no, 36 individuals to do as they wish. The president has more difficulty getting money out of the treasury than the governor. The governor has the key to the treasury and they do as they wish. There is nothing to see after paying salary. Many states, they don't even pay salaries. They don't pay pensions. It's not the president that builds well. It's not the president that builds roads, hospitals, schools, and these basic necessities that our people need. There's not much. Instead, what our governors doing, they are hiring and renting aircraft and going all over the country. Many of them are absentee governors. They're in Abuja. So there is a disconnection between the people they have elected, we have elected, and the people. And you have youth, unemployed all over the country. What do you expect? This is a bomb waiting to explode.
Yes.
You are not giving them job. You send a child to school, Malaysia, China, you spend all this thing, he comes back home, he's still in your boys' quarters 30 years after. And we look at my generation, anybody 60 and above, my generation, we've gotten a lot more out of this country than we've given back. So this country, as it is now, is not doing well for our youth. And God Almighty knows there is enough money to educate our children. There is enough money to give us good hospitals. There is enough money to employ our children. What I see when I leave this forest, I come here to Abuja, I don't watch these channels anymore. Why? Because we are just in a different world. We're here talking to ourselves. I hear, fact they have given, how many billions for road, how many this. When all of these rugas, what they need are just borehole, little clinics, and little schools. That will make a difference. That will make a difference in this conflict. We saw that. We went for a medical outreach in the forest in Kogi. We saw, I'm a doctor, physician. The last time I saw this number of patients was when I was doing housemanship.
Interesting.
I saw 25 children, women, children, aged, pregnant women in the forest. For what? For just pittance, little. Malaria, pregnancy, cataract, and all that. These are things that government should provide and make a difference between the kids picking up AK-47 and peace. We've seen that all over the world. In Afghanistan, in Iraq, the Americans know soft power is doing social issues. But here, our government, what does it do? Banditry, I will tell you because I know. I can't speak for IPOB, ESN, or Boko Haram. Banditry, I know the government and the military do not understand it and do not want to understand it. And they're militarizing it. Oh, kill, shoot. It would not solve this problem.
Thank you. That brings me back to you as someone who represents the media. Part of that narrative of kill, shoot is largely driven in the news. You know, that they are terrorists, you know, they are this, they are that. There is no room for nuance. There's no room for a deeper understanding of the conflict that we want to solve the problem. So, and that even the situations the two of our guests for today have been describing is largely different from the narrative in the news, the narrative in the media. In the media is A against B, B against, you know, like we're in a war of worlds against one another. How does that come to be? And can we have a different way of understanding or presenting issues in the news?
Well, I think...
and to what extent does that influence these issues?
Yeah, there are, really. The problem is that the media is simply a mirror of the society. It is like garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
The media don't make news. They don't create news. They merely report. So if you're a minister of information and you call somebody bandits, they will quote you.
Okay.
If you call them terrorists, they will quote you. So they will always ascribe the adjectives that you use. Now you can imagine the
they
beautiful...
do sensationalize,
you can
they add salt when they are
No,
reporting.
I'm coming, sir. You can imagine now the beautiful way that Prof is presenting it. Now, assuming, for instance, that you are a kidnapper, let me not be the kidnapper, and then you hear him speak the way he speaks, what will happen to you? You are likely to mellow down because you have heard from somebody, an elder, somebody who has been exposed, who has seen it all, talking like a father figure. Now the question is, from the cacophony of people who have access to the media, how many of them speak like Prof? So it is what the media sees that they broadcast. Okay. If we come here now and we are using superlative adjectives, that is what you will air.
That's what the audience
You have
will
nothing
see.
else to air. But because we are now talking like a family, the language is different. And that is why even when the military, when they make their press releases, I can tell you, even here in Daily Trust, there are several things that you people tone down. If you publish the press statements from the military, from the police, from public institutions, the way they are couched, in fact, this country will blow up. So there is a lot of what I may call self-censorship on the positive aspect that the media professionals embark on. Which is why we still have this country.
I'm hearing that we have about 1 minute left, so I'm going to end with Prof. And thank you. So even the youths themselves, there is accusation that they are not ready, that they are lazy, in quotes, that they don't know anything, and so on. What is their role in this, and what preparation do they need, to also play a part in bringing an end to all these conflicts that we're talking about?
Nations are built by the youth, not the aged like you and I. We're tired and facing out.
I'm still young, sir.
General Yakubu Gowon retired, became the head of state before he was 32. Governor Diatta Smith, the first military governor of Rivers State, was 27. General Murtala Muhammad was killed at the age of 38.
But maybe they had the training. The ones today, they don't have the
No, they were not trained. As General Gowon just came back from military training, and he was hoisted on this. But by God, did they do us proud? Their age. At that age, they held this country together. And you look at the young Maitama Sule. How old was he? He was in his 20s when he was in Parliament. It was a level of maturity, and now we old people have not mentored our younger ones to take over. or 70, 80-year-old, they still want to be president.
But
we are
people
not
say that they
mentoring.
too are not willing to be mentored. They are more interested in social media,
Right, yeah.
and this, Instagram,
Right,
and TikTok.
TikTok, and they are there smiling at your camera. Your camera people are all TikTok
You
people.
understand? Yeah, so those are the things.
but you don't understand. This is the new world. WhatsApp was founded by high school
Young
students in
men,
their
yeah.
garages. Yeah. How old was Bill Gates?
Zuckerberg.
You know? How old was Zuckerberg? How old was? There is that opportunity, but our children need to be focused. There is a lot of potential they have, and the biggest potential they have is their number. They can change this country. They are the ones that brought President Muhammadu Buhari. They are the ones that brought any president in this country. It is their number. It is their number. Use that number positively and ask and demand for things that are better.
Thank you.
Your PVC is a savior in this country.
I think we'll end on that note, on the note of Nigeria as a country using its number positively. We have a large population. We can put that population to use in ways that will benefit everyone, wherever they may be. This is where we come to the end of this program, and where we draw a curtain, and where we thank our guests. Thank you very much, Professor Usman Yusuf, for coming on.
Thank
you very much, Mr. Malakai Ozendu, for
Thank
coming
you
on
very
the show.
much.
Thank you.
Hope to have you,
Thank you,
once again.
Nigerians.
And I am Suleiman. We hope you guests will stay with us again tomorrow. You viewers will be with us tomorrow when we arrive here again to bring you another episode of Daily Politics.